So welcome to our webinar today. We are with Sofia, and we are talking about the role of extracellular matrix and lymphatic system in health and disease. I'm Jen Casey. I am a holistic nutritionist, CNP, and I am also the academic advisor and practicum coordinator here at the IHN Vancouver campus. Today we are with Sofia, and Sofia works as a passionate advocate and supporter of traditional and evidence-based holistic health choices. She began her own healing journey from adrenal fatigue that led to Hashimoto's over 17 years ago. Her drive to seek truth using natural health principles led her to IHN. Now, with 15 years of clinical experience, the acquisition of advanced clinical training, and over 13 years of teaching experience in the field, she splits her schedule between her private practice, teaching symptomatology 2 at IHN, and mentoring new practitioners as a co-op placement partner. Her expertise is in solving mostly chronically ill autoimmune diseases and cancer cases. So welcome, Sofia.
Thank you, Jen. So I'm just gonna share the screen and start. It's already 5 minutes, 4 minutes past 5. So I timed it, it's gonna be a 1 hour presentation, 45 minutes presentation to 1 hour. And hopefully everybody can be on until the end. So the plan for today, what we're going to talk about in 1 hour's webinar, we're going to talk about pleomorphism and terrain theory. And some of you may know what that is. Some of you may not know. Just a reminder there, that's the basis of what we do as holistic nutritionists. What is the extracellular matrix and its role in homeostatic balance? Then the link between extracellular matrix and lymphatic system, because there's a big link there. How to recognize the symptoms of extracellular matrix and the lymphatic system dysregulation in yourself and obviously your clients, causes of extracellular matrix and lymphatic disturbance, and a few ideas of how to balance them. I'm not going to go into much detail about that part of it. It's more in the workshop that's coming in June. But I will tell you actually what at least 2 or 3 things we're going to do together in a practical way today at the end. Oops. Interesting. Okay, in practice, so assessing and addressing the extracellular matrix and lymphatic system is not only necessary part of the treatment, but actually is the first and essential, crucial, whatever other word you want to put there to make it very, very important for you to do in your practice. If you ignore it, you will either not have long-term positive effects or results with your clients or with yourself, or you will make your client sicker. So some people are asking, like, how can you make your client sicker? You're going to use just natural stuff and natural modalities, natural supplements, so on. Well, I'm going to give you one example. For instance, if you do not address first extracellular matrix and the lymphatic system, for instance, we're talking about mold exposure, if you're talking about parasites, candida, other funguses, and so on, that you want to get rid of them in your client, you actually drive them, you transmute them if you want, or you drive them into other parts of the body without getting rid of them. So you're just going to move them around. And in that particular process, usually the client is going to be in a deeper state of the disease practically. So a little bit about pleomorphism and terrain theory. And I'm pretty sure you've probably seen this. I love it. I love this picture because it says it all. So in order to understand the extracellular matrix, actually what it does to our body and how to heal that and how to look at it, we have to talk about this basic foundational principle of healing that we apply in our practice every day practically. Is the terrain theory versus the germ theory. And going to the drawing, this is the kind of an absolute summary of that. You have 2 bowls. One of them is with very pristine water. Let's say it's coming from a river. And the other one, it's a murky water, really, really bad, all kind of toxins there, mud and all that stuff. And the germ theory would be on the left side of the screen. And, the Louis Pasteur, which is actually all the model of the infectious diseases control and so on, what we apply these days in medical industry, unfortunately, is going by that. And Louis Pasteur would say, you know what, let's vaccinate the fish, or let's medicate the fish. Antoine Bouchamp actually went totally against that. And he was saying, no, it's not the fish, it's the terrain. So let's clean the tank, let's clean the water instead of vaccinating the fish. So just a very, I'm going to go briefly through this. Louis Pasteur, if you never heard about him, probably I'm pretty sure you did, was a French chemist and microbiologist who discovered the principle of vaccination, microbial fermentation, pasteurization. So obviously very important, things in medical, and not only medical, but even public health and so on. His 19th century theories are still used as a foundation in hygiene all over the world, in public health, and much of the modern medicine model of infectious diseases. And I think for the past 2 years, we got a really good example of what that theory is. Now, one of the biggest problems, though, with this particular model is that medical industry gauges its success by how well the symptoms, or leaves the symptoms, how well we get rid of symptoms, right? You have a headache, it's not going to ask you where the headache's coming from. Is it hormonal issues? Is it because you're not pooping right? Is it because your lymphatic system is not draining from your head, your neck, and so on? Where is it coming from? They're just going to tell you, okay, you know what, take the Tylenol. There is always a price, though, to pay. And I think we kind of, all of us, if we are adults, all of us went through that, and we realized that by just suppressing the symptoms, we're not going to go far away. And many times we're going to create progressive, deeper, chronic health issues than before. Edwin Béchamp and his theory of pleomorphism, he was a pharmacist, doctor, and doctor in medicine as well, doctor in science and medicine. So his theory of pleomorphism, or terrain theory, what we call it, postulates that the diseased tissue attracts the germ rather than being caused by it. And this is a very interesting, like, seriously? Okay, Professor Günther Enderlein, another German, actually, it was a disciple of Antoine Béchamp, and he learned everything from Béchamp, and actually he went further than that. He researched and he discovered, actually proved, that blood is not sterile. And if I talk, I told that to a lot of people that I'm talking to, friends and so on, who really want to know more about, healing properly and so on. And I asked them those questions. Do you think the blood is sterile? And like, of course, because otherwise we're going to get sick. Well, it's not. He discovered that microorganisms can appear in various development stages and in diverse forms without the loss of specific characteristics. So there's some forms of development, the forms where they are, they can live in symbiosis with us. And there's some then at specific times, we're going to see in specific, because of specific factors that we're going to talk about, will develop into something that's going to become pathogenic for us. So pleomorphists, we call them today, believe the microorganism can abruptly change from an avirulent benign form, something that, it's not doing anything to us, not anything bad to us, in a potentially virulent or pathogenic form. That is actually something that we have to get rid of in one way or another. Whether the biological self-healing mechanism or forces in the organism or in our body actually will win over the disease depends on the condition of the milieu, of the terrain, what he called it, in which the disturbance plays out. Allopathic medicine looks at that, the whole thing about monomorphism. So, you have the bad guys, you have the bad bacteria, viruses, and so on. We have to get rid of them, and we have the good ones, and there's nothing in between. And they're not looking that these are actually morphing from one to the other one. So I introduced that name of the inner milieu. First of all, let's see how is that inner milieu damaged. So that is actually the terrain that we're talking about, the pleomorphists are talking about. So anything, this is just a general talk here, an unhealthy nutritional lifestyle, disturbance of the acid balance equilibrium. And I believe that I'm pretty sure that you are addressing that in your practice through environmental toxins, through constant infections, through psychological depressions. The self-healing forces are incapable of restoring our symbiotic equilibrium balance. Disease will manifest in these conditions and damage the body. So the terrain and milieu, it's actually, what is it? It's a combination of nutritional status, toxicity levels, energetic balance, immune function, mental outlook, and emotional well-being. So I'm going to talk about milieu, or I'm going to just say that again, over and over again, about the milieu and the terrain. So the terrain, many times I'm talking to, practitioners who just started practicing, and I'm asking them, did you change the terrain? Because they call me and say, like, you know what, this is not working. I'm not sure what I'm doing right. And I'm like, did you change the terrain? What's your milieu? What's your client's milieu? And I'm like, they're like, what are you talking about? Right? So again, it's not only the physical milieu that we're talking about terrain, it's everything to do with even mental outlook, emotional balance, and so on. Very quickly, I'm going to go through this. This is a book that finally appeared in English, actually, and you can buy it and get that even online. Dr. Alfred Fischinger's book, Extra Cellular Matrix and Ground Regulation, as the basis of holistic biological medicine. And we're calling it now the German biological medicine, because that's where all this information is coming from as a concept. So these are his words, Dr. Alfred Fischinger. He died in 1982, but he left a lot of knowledge for all of us that, knowingly or not, you are all using it in your practice. So these are his words. The concept of a cell is, strictly speaking, only a morphological abstraction. Interesting. So seen from a biological point of view, a cell cannot be considered by itself without taking its environment into account. So cell really is nothing without its environment. He was the first scientist to describe the importance of extracellular matrix in 1975, and to state that almost every disease starts within the extracellular matrix. That's why, when I was asked to, I talk about something, I said, I have to talk about extracellular matrix and lymphatic system, because this is where you have to start. He also called extracellular matrix as ground regulation. So sometimes when you hear that, you know what that is. So to his opinion, not only the regulation within the cell plays a role in regulation of the whole body functions, but the regulation of coming from the surrounding milieu. So the milieu surrounding the cells must be suitable for growth and repair. And the repair mechanism is very, very important, as maybe it's more important than the growth. So cells in the body, again, are not independent. They're controlled by the signaling from the extracellular matrix. And it's very, very interesting. I wrote in another slide there that extracellular matrix is signaling electrically, it's signaling with hormones, it's signaling with all kinds of chemicals to the cell, and the cell knows what to do because of that signaling from the extracellular matrix. Extracellular matrix, and this is from Fischinger's work, these are his words: the inner ocean that defines, unifies all our cells and controls them in a coordinated and integrated fashion. So the health of every cell is controlled actually by the organism as a whole. And this is something completely different than what you heard maybe in, traditional medicine, it's medical industry, I guess, so what we're seeing now in the world and in Canada as well. And whenever you talk about, about health, and you start even talking about anatomy, physiology, I'm pretty sure when you did physiology and anatomy, the course, you started with the cell, right? And from the cell, whoops, Christ, my battery's not on. Here we are. Sorry about that glitch. There you go. So extracellular matrix is the inner ocean that unifies all the cells, and the health of every cell is controlled by the organism as a whole. I was talking about that. So it's very, very interesting that you think about the whole body, and that extracellular matrix actually is going to control the cells and not the other way around. So extracellular matrix is a space where pathology affects the body the most, and also where we can provide and start most of the healing. And this is the key up to here, 15 minutes of talk. This is the key thing that you have to remember. This is how it looks like. I'm not going to go much through it. This is a drawing of the extracellular matrix, so with everything what's in it. And you see there are mast cells, and you see there these are immune cells, elastin that keeps it all together, axons, and you see the nervous system being part of it. And you see the capillaries here. One thing that, funny enough, is not here is the lymphatic system, which runs parallel with this endothelium and of this the circulatory system. One thing very, very interesting, I didn't know about that until recently, until I started writing this, that extracellular matrix makes up about 27.5% of the volume of the human body, so more than the quarter there. Very, very interesting, right? Has a protective, communicative, and adhesive functions. It's not only that keeps all together, but it's really, it protects all the cells, but actually makes the cell communicate. And it's not only communication with the cells, but it's communication with the nervous system and actually the neuroendocrine system, not only the nervous system. This is how it looks like in a microscope. You see, like it looks like, to me, it looks like hundreds of roads there, maybe suspended roads, a really, really busy thing. So again, extracellular matrix is a network of cell communication and a microcirculation. Extracellular fluid is the fluid part of that ECM, or extracellular matrix, and contains blood, plasma, lymph. And that's how we're going to talk today about lymph as well, because it's a really structurally integral part of that extracellular matrix. Cerebrospinal fluid is the sister fluid of in the matrix as well. I'm not going to go much through this in the workshop. I'm going a little bit more into the function of the two of them and the link between the two of them. Some of you have heard me talk about this and making my own drawing there during the SIM2 lesson or class. Intracellular matrix is within the cell. The nutrients are needed or need the nutrients from the extracellular matrix. The blue stuff is that matrix that keeps them all together, but also feeds them with what? With mineral colloids, electrolytes, with oxygen, hormone messengers. So not only chemicals and oxygen and minerals and so on, but hormone messengers. Also transfer electrical substance or electrical messagings. Removes excretion products, toxin, and residue of all diseases. And I wrote this with red because when we talk about drainage, this is what we talk about, right? So how do we clear that extracellular matrix in order for that intracellular matrix or the cell itself to be able to dump more of its own garbage of metabolic garbage, I call it sometimes, from its own metabolism into that extracellular matrix to clean itself. So what happens if that particular extracellular matrix is clogged with debris, is clogged with toxins, is clogged with stuff that is not draining it well, then the cell is not going to be able to dump that stuff out of itself, and it's going to become either, and you know it already from my talk on cancer, it's going to become either it's going to die or it's going to become a cell that is anaerobic cell, which would be a cancer cell. So extracellular matrix also has a role in transmitting and enacting genetic code. It does signal how that DNA and RNA is going to be replicated from the cell. Very, very interesting. So how pathology starts in extracellular matrix space. So for you as a practitioner, how would you know immediately that you have to work on that? I would say, to be honest, as a tip for you, work on that anyway. Work on that from the beginning without even having like horrible diseases or symptoms. But these are the symptoms we see all the time in our practice, right? So some physiological manifestation of that extracellular matrix going to too clogged up, let's say, headaches, high or low blood pressure, feeling poorly, unmotivated attitude, lack of appetite, dry complexion, coated tongue, wounds in the mouth, pimples, sores, acne, probably too, hoarseness, catarrh, ear noises, the tinnitus, a teen, or shh, or with those noises in the ears that people complain about sometimes when it comes to us, diarrhea, constipation could be there too, lower capacity for seeing and hearing, depressions with concentration for memory. So obviously some of these could be from other reasons, but even let's say headaches, just in a first example there, we say many times, okay, your headache, what, you conclude that the headache is hormonal for that particular person or particular lady, for instance. Where is that coming from? Well, it started with the extracellular matrix and the extracellular matrix signaling to autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system signaling back to the organs and the other systems of the body, to the endocrine system and so on. So really everything started from the extracellular matrix. So let's jump to lymphatic system, which is part of that ECM. The key functions of lymphatic system, these, I'm going to go very fast through them. defend against foreign particles and microorganisms, restore any excess protein molecules, byproducts coming from, an interstitial fluid back to the systemic circulation of elimination, which is the venous, the circulatory system, absorption of fat-soluble vitamins and fatty substances from the gastrointestinal tract. So, these are like main ones. There are many other ones, but these are absolutely the main ones that we talk about. And you've seen this many times, maybe, the lymphatic system, how it looks like. The only thing that is a lot of nodes here, everywhere, angular nodes, like a lot of them under the, over around the breast and under the axillary lymph nodes. The neck lymph nodes, by the way, I did not know that until I did some more research to do the workshop, actually, that is coming in June. And I thought, oh my God, I had no clue that in the neck itself, there are over one third actually of our lymphatic nodes in the body. So that's over around 250 lymphatic nodes in only in the neck itself. So it's very, very important because it drains also the brain, right? And there are some more organs, them already, the lymphatic system, where lymphatic system is, present, like spleen, very important part of the immune system and lymphatic system, thymus gland as well, and the nodes and the whole, lower limbs, upper limbs, and so on. You see where the most of the concentration is. The only thing you don't see here, because it's not zoomed enough, you don't see all the 4 types of the tonsils. Which are I think the palatine tonsils are the ones that we see them in our throat when they're when they're red and inflamed, all that stuff. Pharyngeal tonsils as well, lingual tonsils, tubal tonsils. So tubal tonsils are linked to our ears, practically, and they drain that as well. Mucosal associative lymphoid tissue. It's not presented here. Actually, it is here somewhere in the gut. In the gut, the whole gut actually has that, because you have mucosal tissue everywhere from the mouth to the end. But also we have that anywhere else with mucosal tissue. For instance, one of the most important ones is in the lungs themselves. GALT, you heard about that. We talked at ICM about that, gut-associated lymphoid tissue with Peyer's patches, and that is in the gut. Very, very important to heal that in all of your clients if that's dysregulated, and that will be dysregulated every time you have a leaky gut. This is how they look like, and they look kind of pretty. And we have about 30 or 40 of them, I believe. As we age, they're going to go down. So this is the small intestine, and these things that look like nuts here are the Peyer's patches. And they have 2 major immune system functions. One, respond to infection, to the T cells and B cells. So practically what they do, they literally catch the infection. They recognize that the infection is going on. Doesn't matter what type, like bacterial, viral, whatever it is. And they present it actually to the immune system. And the immune system then starts attacking them or getting rid of them, hopefully. And number 2, a role in our oral immune tolerance. And this is a very interesting one, because this has to do with, how many, when we have allergies and we have intolerance to food, everything would be food, drinks, or whatever we put on our mouth. But there's very, very interesting new research, and I'm going to present in the workshop, talking about the Peyer's patches, actually the health of Peyer's patches being having a role, actually, if not triggering the Crohn's disease, for instance, right? So it's a lot of very, very, very interesting research out there. Very quickly, maybe you know that, hopefully you know that. It's a very weird way that we drain that lymphatic system. So this part of the body, so very, very little tiny part of the body, and this is my right side of the body, so right side of the head, the neck, and kind of the upper torso. It's drained right here. So I'm going to show it's drained right here above the, above the bone. And actually, even if you pump a little bit, you sometimes, maybe you feel it, it's a little bit, maybe mushy, non-mushy, or swollen maybe sometimes. When it's a problem, it's not draining properly. So maybe sometimes when you watch TV or whatever, just pump a little bit. And we're going to do later today, towards the end, we're going to do exercise of how to drain your lymphatic system from the brain, lymphatic system from the neck, and how to pump in these 2 ducts. So everything actually is draining from the body, it's draining in the ducts. So the left side is like right above my bone here, right in that I don't know, that little hole there, is draining that thoracic duct, and the left side of the body is draining the rest of the body. So most of the body is drained there. So it's very, very interesting how the body figure out to do that. The lymphatic system, you heard me talking about that in Sim 2. This is the first picture actually of the lymphatic system, so the brain lymphatic system. And interesting enough, it was 2015 new discoveries, so only about 7 years ago. And to be honest, I was like, oh, it was a funny moment. I thought, like, seriously, nobody knew that we have that. I kind of knew it, but I just went through the logic. I didn't know it because nobody told me about it, but I thought, like, it wasn't a logic thing to think that if the whole body has this amazing lymphatic system, why would the brain not have that? But anyway, so this is the first picture by Dr. Daniel Reich that was published in 2017. So obviously you know that intuitively, even if you didn't study it, that the draining of the brain is very, very important to even ward off, early dementia or dementia totally. You can die at 110 years old and not have dementia. You don't have to have dementia or Alzheimer's. Depression, think about depression. I find that all my clients that have, depression or have mood problems and so on, even people have mental disorders, then none of them drain the lymphatic system properly. And today I'm going to show you how to do that. It's very simple. You can do it at home. So symptoms of lymphatic stagnation, how to recognize this in your clients, on yourself. Frequent sinusitis and tonsillitis. Pay attention specifically with your children. There's so many children that have repeated tonsillitis. And this is really something that you don't want to see out there, right? So again, chronic lower back pain, morning stiffness, chronic pain or fatigue, and general stiffness of the body, bloating in your face, your abdomen. Not bloating, even if puffiness, for instance, if I would be puffy in my cheek, right above the cheekbones, that is a sign. And that's usually what I see in my clients. And I usually put my hands on them to kind of feel that. Is it like normal skin tissue or is it puffiness? It's kind of a sponginess to it, right? Also, you can find it here many times with people with sinus infection and really bad lymphatic stagnation. Under the eye, right? It's not the swelling like it's from the kidneys, but it's just that puffiness. Sometimes it's under parts of the face, other parts of the body. So again, varicose veins, brain fog, poor sleep, acne, other skin conditions, bad breath, pure capillary refill, painful lymph nodes and cell lice. The capillary refill is a simple thing that the doctors do sometimes. They just press one of your fingers until it's white, kind of there's no circulation, and then leave it and see exactly in how many seconds it's circulated again. That should be about 2 or 3 seconds. And if it's more than that, you have a problem. So how pathology develops in this extra cellular matrix and lymphatics. Extracellular matrix, or ECM, I'm going to call it from now on, builds in and repairs itself and nourishes the cells, obviously, and protects the cells, unless the various types of disturbances are taking place there. And many of them have to do with our lifestyle, right? Many of them have to do with chemicals, pollutants, pathogens. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. Stress, electromagnetic smog, we call it today, right? Electromagnetic exposure, the laptop is in front of me, maybe in front of you, and the Wi-Fi's and the cell phone, all that stuff, 5Gs now and so on. Pathogenic exposure as well. Oops, I wrote it twice because they're very important too. So it manifests by reduced efficiency of the extracellular matrix and efficiency in drainage or excretion of toxins there. So it becomes, let's say, clogged. And then automatically inability of the cells actually to the intracellular matrix to drain and detoxify due to that extracellular matrix. I call it fullness, right? It's full of garbage. You can't put more garbage there. So let's talk about some of the causes of that. They impact this terrain of milieu or extracellular matrix and lymphatic system. It's funny that I thought about, okay, I'm going to talk about one extracellular matrix and what impacts the lymphatic system. And then I realized are the same, are literally the same. because extracellular matrix is impacting obviously the lymphatic, the fluid in it, which part of it is lymphatic system. So number one is microbiome. And you know the story, 10 times, we have 10 times more, bacteria in our body than our cells in our body, right? So how healthy is that? And we always say these days, it's not anymore like what you are, what you digest, and what you eat and what you digest. It's more like, okay, that's important, but it's more like, okay, what is your microbiome? You're as healthy as your microbiome. Number two is ecosystem of life. And I can't remember where I got this from, but I had it in my head like, oh yeah, ecosystem of life. I think it's coming from Dr. Zach Bush. And if you don't know anything about him, please go to his website. Amazing person, triple board certified doctor and son. And he has a view of life like not too many leaders these days, or not to any leaders these days, or to a lot of the medical doctors actually that absolutely do not see the life as it should be. So I thought about how do I explain this ecosystem of life, and I just put here two pictures that I think are explaining it all. The left picture, do you live the left picture life, right? Good food, the forest in the back there, you're working outside with your family tights and so on, or you live the Toronto, I don't even know I just took it off the internet. It could be very well Toronto. It's a big city. So which life do you live? And I think a lot of us live the right side life, right? So that's our ecosystem. And that ecosystem is going to change the internal ecosystem in us and that we do. Number three, pathogens, parasites, viral, bacterial, fungal, name it. I'm going to present in the later workshop about very, very interesting new discoveries and the thought that viral infections, for instance, specific one, HHV6, which, by the way, I have a biomeridian machine that tests the body, and many times I test without even telling my client because I don't want to scare them. But I want to see if they have, horrible anxiety or horrible mental depression or mental problems. They have chronic fatigue syndrome and so on. Especially chronic fatigue syndrome. I want to see if they test positive on that or not, and majority of them do test positive. So the HHV6 infects the vagus nerve. I call it vagus nerve, it's a Latin name, vagus nerve in English. So vagus nerve, then you're in trouble. It's really, really hard to heal that particular body. And there are things that we try to do. Many times, are successful, but sometimes are not successful. Number four, environmental exposure. Know probably all about this. You've done your environmental course, or maybe not. Chemicals, food, water, soil, breathing, air, molds, mycotoxins, radiation, heavy metals. So, and there are some examples there. Glyphosate, I put it with red because absolutely in my mind it's the worst one. I always call it, in one of my lectures, I call it the slow death. And people are telling me, oh my God, you're like bad news all the time. Well, glyphosate is bad news. But there are all kind of other things, organophosphates, parabens, phthalates, right? Like everywhere around us. Bisphenol A and bisphenol B. A lot of people know about BPA, but they have no clue that BPP actually is worse than BPA. And there are scientific studies that show that. DDT, PCBs, flame retardants, VOCs, that stands for volatile organic compounds, right? So those are, you renovate your house, you maybe you're, painting in the sun, and there you go, VOC toxicity. Number five, interference fields. And majority of you probably don't know about these. And one of the people I look up to, one of the doctors, German doctor, is talking all the time about this. So I hear him for years talking about this. And then finally I thought, okay, I have to look more into this. And they have to do, it has to do with any interference with the flow, energetic flow and lymphatic flow, and any interference or cutting practically to some extent, cutting because of the scar surgery or because of cavitation, gangrenes, focal infections in the jaw, for instance, like this particular picture. So it's a drawing with this cavitation, what we call it, this cavitation. So the cavitation also, its interruption is, you see here, a flow of circulation. So that means that gangrene, obviously, it's something that has to be taken out of there, has to be healed. There are different ways to do that, and I'm going to talk in the workshop about how to do that. If you think you don't have it, I would urge you, a lot of people have it, and they have no clue until something like cancer strikes them, right? And then they go to a dentist, they look about to like everything, like dead root canals. I'm going to talk about that in a workshop too. And about also, I'm going to talk about, okay, you have an implant. What kind of implant can you do? There's only one that is okay, by the way. It's zirconium, if you want to know. But on the right side, you have here a picture, better picture actually, that shows interference fields there. And an 86-year-old woman who for 55 years had pain and swollen legs, and that there's no therapy actually that could heal her. Nothing. Actually, everything that was tried on her. So why is that? Well, she had a C-section from 31 years old. And that C-section actually was blocking 8 different meridians. And all those energetic meridians, the flow of energy, it goes literally from everywhere in the body, literally to the liver, to the whatever. And lymphatic system, obviously, the first thing to be affected is extra cellular matrix, lymphatic system, and then the rest of the body. Geopathic stress and electrosmog. I'm going to tell you today only where to look for information. And to me, these two authors and specialists are the best for this particular subject. And they're talking, both of them that I noted here, actually, it's not about geopathic stress, it's about electrosmog. So EMFs, including 5G, which you really have to wrap your head around it and to read about it. In the workshop, I'm going to make sure that I share with you, in my view, as an ex-engineer, I have this tendency to look from the technical point of view of these things, which gizmos and which things, protect you better. I have a few of them that I'm putting my money on the side actually to buy one of it's a little bit more expensive. So again, I'm going to share in the workshop with you, but now I'm sharing with you 2 books and actually 2 websites. Lloyd Burrell has this EMF practical guide on how to beat electrical sensitivity. It's very cheap. I can't remember how much I paid for it, but it's very cheap for what it does. The Nick Pineau, the EMF guy, has fantastic courses if you want to go really deep into it, if you want maybe as a practitioner to be dedicated to that and have a niche of your own and heal that and, consult people only on that. You can do that, take his courses. This is how geopathic stress looks like in nature. So geopathic stress actually comes from bad radiation, specific radiation of the crust of the earth. And usually you see that around where there is groundwater, but also around many times around running water. I live on the Humber River, right on a park on the Humber River, and I tested it. It's not here. There are even some maps. I could not find them. I have them somewhere. I could not find them. There's maps of Toronto to see where the geopathic stress zones are. There's a big one, by the way, if you live near or in Hyde Park or near Hyde Park, there's a huge one there coming from really up north up to the lake. And there are quite a few of them in Scarborough, Mississauga, and so on. So how it looks like, it's kind of this scrambled, it looks like a cancerous, literally. That's how one way to describe it. And something that's not growing okay, right? Something that's like twisted. You can see sometimes twisted left, right. It's like just in a very, very weird angle. That's how they grow in geopathic stress. 2 other causative factors, big ones, psycho-emotional health and trauma history. So remember what causative factors are for, what we're talking about. We're talking about extracellular matrix here. Molds, I put them separate. So yeah, these are pathogens. I put them separate because there's not to talk about them. You may have mold toxicity if you have this chronic illness. If you have ongoing explained symptoms, the doctor or your practitioner cannot diagnose. And this is a big, big tip for you as a practitioner. If you tried everything, if that, even that, let's say, fungal infection is not going away at all. Parasitic infection is there, but it's not there, but then there again, and so on. They have all kind of weird symptoms. I'm going to read some of the symptoms on the next page, next slide there. Think always about mold. Also diagnosed with atypical disease. Actually, I have one client right now diagnosed with MS. And I said, did you do the top spine? I said, no, it's based on symptoms or whatever. It's like, oh, hi, you do the spinal tap. Or for Parkinson's disease, for instance, diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, but they say, oh, it's atypical because no lesions are seen. Look at the mold. It's probably not Parkinson, probably it's not MS, it's the mold, because it gives exactly the same symptoms. Sometimes treatments and adjustment and recovery do not hold, right? So again, like I said it about fungus and so on. Some of the most common symptoms and cases to look for or into, to know that it's mold: allergies, chronic sinusitis, headaches, joint pain, chronic fatigue, anxiety, autoimmunity, cancers, practically all the clients you're gonna get. Shortness of breath, fatigue, pains, needles in your extremities. Needles, one, I didn't write it here, but one of my clients said, and that's exactly, I knew that that's a symptom of mold. She says, from time to time, not like, I don't know, I can't link it to weather. I can't link it to, maybe when the weather is a little bit murky, like today, not murky, but, rainy or whatever. She has like, I have this sharp pain. It's like somebody stuck a knife in my brain. That's mold. That's absolutely mold. Effects of mycotoxins of the brain, like memory loss, foggy brain, forgetfulness, stubborn weight. Yes, mycotoxins. And by the way, we don't know the difference between mold and mycotoxin. Mycotoxins are the chemicals made by mold, right? And there are many, many, many different ones. So one type of mold can make many, many different ones. So again, those are usually tested actually. You feel off, digestive issues, including SIBO, leaky gut, it cannot heal no matter what you do. It's worked 1,000 times, but now this particular person is not working. Insomnia, anxiety, hormonal issues of all sorts. Triggering worsening chronic pain, like a fibromyalgia. For instance, you go to the cottage, and the cottage, instead of being like a good 2 weeks time, and like suddenly your pain is going to go really high because the cottage has the mold. Symptoms are worse in humid and whenever it's rainy outside. When we talk about sick house syndrome, it's not only talking about mold. Mold is a big part of it. The sick house syndrome also refers to the syndrome or the horrible and very weird symptoms that people have. They come, they go. Sometimes it's this and sometimes the other one. And literally unfortunately, these symptoms lead many doctors to put them on antidepressants. And it's not there's nothing wrong with their, actually it is something wrong with their mind too, because the mold affects the mitochondria and affects the brain first of all. It's going for or after the brain first of all, right? But it's not the point with antidepressants, the point like where is it coming from? So the sick house syndrome refers also to irradiation. Let's say you have your bed in where is the geopathic stress? It goes right in your bedroom there, that geopathic stress zone, and I don't know, years later you have cancer, right? So that sick house syndrome is like you are sick in your house, from your house. This is some pictures only of mold. This is, by the way, an open washer, open laundry machine. Still of the near the windows, usually near the, so wherever infiltration of near the frame there, right, of the doors and so on, where infiltration of water seeps into the wall practically. And by the way, I learned from a company that does here this particular testing of your home, that it only, let's say you have a flooding in your home, you flag a flooding from your neighbor, from upstairs neighbor, or a flooding like it happened to one of my family members, the whole condominium. For days they had like water running from up the condo to down. Needs only 24 hours, less than 48 hours for the mold to form. Those particular flats or those particular condominiums are totally destroyed. So you're thinking like, okay, yeah, it took like a month to dry the walls and so on. Well, it doesn't take a month to make mold. It takes 48 hours. This is in a washing machine, by the way. in the drawer where you put the detergent and all that stuff that you use. And these are the cases of all, and you have one, please buy another one, all the front loading machines, all of them have that. And actually I found out in my research these days, or a few weeks ago, when I researched companies and all that stuff, there's any kind of a research done on it, that in United States, there's actually a lot of, lawsuits, and big companies, they are making front loading machines. So if you have one, get rid of it because you have that. Other pictures there, ducts in the house. And this is taken, the picture is taken from a company in Toronto that does this mold cleaning solutions, has solutions the whole house. If you have them in the ducts of the, in the house, you have them everywhere. They literally have them everywhere. This is after the same company. They found that many times they literally strip the walls, and this is what you're gonna find behind the walls. Really scary. And what do you have to do then? You're literally probably gonna remodel the whole house. So some people will want to know what the testing, how do you test the sick house syndrome? So for sick house syndrome, that includes the mold, but everything else is something what is called Hayward score. We all use it, haywardscore.com. You can just go there and do your own and see if you're affected by your house, if you're getting sick in your house. And then if the score is high, you're gonna kind of strip it down to the bare bones to see where's it coming from. Is it mold? Maybe it's mold. Is it, you have carpets, all carpets, I just absolutely hate that. And in everywhere I lived, like I never ever, if I had carpets from wall to wall, strip them down. It's for sure it's mold underneath, for sure. So about molds, I will discuss in the workshop. There's not enough, it's almost 1 hour, and I want to do a little bit of practical stuff with you in the next few minutes. So these things are going to be discussed in the workshop, going much in detail with, with what we talked about until now, but also about mycotoxins, how they affect the mitochondria. It's a big thing. So you see this in chronic patients, you see this in people with autoimmune disease, chronic fatigue syndrome for sure. Types of mycotoxins and binders, very important. So there are specific binders that work with the molds, toxins, mycotoxins, and biotoxins. Testing options, I'm gonna, at that point in the workshop, I will share with you testing for homes, companies in Canada and USA. That's the only ones that I know. I don't know in Europe yet. I'll find out. Clinical evaluation of clients, red flags and labs. So you're gonna have, during the workshop, I'm gonna share with you questionnaires, specific questionnaires that the best in the field are using actually, and they're sharing the public. So I can share them with you because they're public, they're in their books and so on. Also, I'm going to share with you the visual test in chronic inflammatory response syndrome. It's called TEST. This is done by and from the work of the pioneers in the field of mold healing, Dr. Richie Shoemaker, maybe you heard about him, and Dr. Neil Nathan. Check, if you're not coming to the workshop, check again, check at least and read at least Dr. Neil Nathan's books. He wrote a few books about that. And again, lots of mold questionnaires to see if you have that or not. After the questionnaire is like really high numbers there, then I'm going to tell you which companies to use actually to test the urine test. That's in my view, it's the best one to test. Blood detox pathway, we're going to talk about that because there is a big link between biliary ducts that are not draining bile properly and the mold, because the mold loves to reside there. And when we do mold detoxification, that is not open, you're in big trouble, or your client is going to be in big trouble. Also, we're going to talk about treatment plans, anything from lifestyle, how to clean your house. There's a lot of tips there that I found out from two of my friends that had to go through that and that they had to strip their home. Best air filtration systems. And again, I'm not, by the way, I'm not affiliated with any of these people. I'm going to share with you, but I have seen them, how they work. Filters, microbiome for your home. Yes, there's something like that. And I just, again, I figured this out only a few 1 or 2 months ago when I started researching for this particular to write the workshop material, and I thought, oh wow, this is so cool, and I bought it. I'm going to share that with you. Ozone therapy for the house, for the cavitations in your mouth, for the nasal stuff, ears, other cavitations, or other cavities in your body and so on. Comprehensive mold detox protocols. And just for you to know, for people who are going to come in workshop, and I hope all of you are going to come, the workshop, it's going to be 6 hours, and probably half of it, or at least half of it, or at least like 2.5 hours is going to be only about mold and mold strategies and mold detox protocols. Because they are, in my view, they're probably the most difficult ones that I have ever done. And I'm going to talk, first of all, when I'm talking about the mold detox protocols, I'm going to tell you the story about Dr. Robert Naviaux and the cell danger response. And I'm going to talk about that because I know that exists, but for years I did not look at it until I had 3 clients almost at the same period of time. And I thought, like, oh my God, that's cell danger response. And totally, and finally, it got into my brain. I thought, okay, I have to do this. Mast cell activation syndrome, people who literally walk by something that has a toxic thing that maybe 100 years away, and they react to it, right? How to stabilize the mast cells and so on. General strategy. I'm going to include diet, supplement, lots of supplementation from different companies, not only the ones that I work with. Actually, mostly the ones that I tried, but also the ones that I learned from other courses about mold. So I'm going to give you 2 tips now. There's only 5 minutes left. 2 tips, practical tips for lymphatic drainage, and I hope you can apply them. The first one, you're going to apply it actually even tonight. How to sleep right, or how to sleep right, meaning not flat. Sleeping flat is the worst thing that we do for the drainage of the glymphatic system. And this is where actually a lot of, it's one of the many causes of dementia, many causes of Alzheimer's, many causes of mental diseases and headaches and everything under the sun to do with the head. So there's an app out there, it's called Tiltmeter, that you can put it really on your bed, and you can understand the inclination of your bed when I'm telling you when you do what I'm telling you in the next few minutes. So you want your bed to be inclined, right? Higher, your head higher than the rest of the body. The inclination should be between 3.5 to 5 degrees. 5 degrees is the best, but at least some inclination. So for a standard king or queen size bed, for instance, this comes to about adding roughly 6 inches. So it's a lot, 6 inches to under your head of the bed. So where your head is under the feet of the bed. Adding 3 inches also support in the middle of the bed frame is also needed, if also needed for stability, depends what kind of bed you have. On Amazon, you can Google to say the bed risers are called, the furniture risers. And you have these risers that literally, they're very well done, very sturdy. Some of them are from very, very sturdy, very compact. That's what I have, very compact, what do you call, some plastic material, most of them. I think mine is some kind of plastic. And some of them are from wood as well. Those of the wood are about 30, 40 bucks. The other ones are about $20, $25, up to $30. So again, you can do that right away. And a fun thing to know here, the tilting of the bed is not something new. We are rediscovering something that in ancient Egypt was applied. So ancient Egypt royalty were almost always at a 5-degree angle incline. For instance, King Tutankhamun bed, his bed looks like a headboard, and this is one of his beds, by the way, in one of his tombs, in his tomb. So there are about 3 or 4 of them. It's the prettiest one, I guess. So whatever you see here, we think it's a headboard. It's actually the feet end, right? So again, you see the inclination. You can see it very well. You see there's a curvature. It's not really curvature. It's an inclination. Curvature is just whatever the frills around it. But the inclination, this is where the head is, and this is where the feet are. So adding 5-degree incline to your sleeping surface can help the lymphatic system drain downhill to the gut to be excreted. And there's something that's called, I'm going to talk in the workshop about it a lot, because there's a way, it's a massage that drains that. And it's really in the lower abdomen area, kind of towards the back. And it's like a sac of lymphatic tissue. And when that sac of lymphatic tissue is not draining, that sac is really big. And guess what? You end up with lower back pain without having any problem with your spine, because it really affects those pushes on those nerves. This can help detoxify heavy metals, pathogens, and other harmless substances from the brain. It's the only thing that it can do day by day without going into 50 minutes massages, into all kind of other twisting your skull recipes there. I'm going to share with you even those during the workshop. So I'm going to show you now. Do I have still, it's 6 o'clock, so I'm sure that some people may leave or may not. I hope you're going to stay for another 5 minutes for some Q&A. These are my last slides here. I'm just going to show you some practical lymphatic drainage of the neck that drains not only the neck, remember, 1/3 of these 700 lymph nodes are in the neck, and it drains also the lymphatics from the brain. So you can do it as a dry self-massage, and I'm going to put my hair up now, or use some creams. The creams that I use are Flow Cream from Sofia Cream, and this is this particular one. I took it from the fridge, and it's from Sofia Institute that is opened by Dr. Klingard. Maybe you heard about him, Dr. Klingard. And it's a very, very thick. It's almost like I put it in the fridge usually because it has bacteria in it, by the way. It was developed with Dr. Ruggiero, if I remember well, and probably you know him from the gut issues and so on. And it's a very, very interesting amalgam of oils and vegetable oils, phosphatidylcholine, very interesting, chondroitin sulfate, and probiotic blend. So very, very interesting. You can use it exactly like I'm going to show you the dry massage. And also I use sometimes the Cleaver Screen from Genestra. I didn't use the other two, but I know that are really good. I just put the order for the deal, that BioPure deodorant. You can find the BioPureUS.com, BioPureUS, one word.com. It's a deodorant to literally, during your sleep, you can do it. You usually do it during your sleep. It's not deodorant for deodorant, but it literally drains the lymphatic tissue, right? Especially from your breast and under. So this is what we're going to drain today. Right, so all these, the lymphatic tissue, lymphatic nodes right in front of your, in your parotid, they're called, in your, from your ear, the ones under your jaw here, submandibular, the one on top of mandibular, the one on the mastoid in the back, drain a lot of the scalp and actually the lymphatic system, and they go all the way down on one side and the other one side of the neck. Also the back ones, occipital, this one goes, it's not on the drawing, but it goes up to like really down. So I'm going to show you where that is. I'm not sure if you can see me or not. So it's on one side and the other side of the thick tendon, the middle of you're coming right in the skull here, on one side and the other one. This is how you are draining it, and actually draining it and bring it forward, where? Into the two ducts, right? So you see my ducts right here above my bones. In the front, you have these ones. So if your cervical ones, they're coming right under your, they're coming from in front of and in the back of the ear. They're actually coming down. It's a good thing I'm bony here. They come down one side and the other one, and they drain in the same ducts. And also you can do it actually on one side or the other side of your bones here, and you can drain it even, you can drain this way your thyroid, by the way. So how do you do that? First of all, you start with the pumping. So I'm going to see myself here. You start with pumping about 15 to 50 times, very, very slight pumping where that, you know, that creases and you see my bone right on top of the bone. So the pumping is like this, coming forward motion. So you're not pumping it very hard, very, very light. It's like you're petting somebody, right? And you're pumping it this way. Sometimes it's easier to do it this way, right? So the just pumping, actually it's much easier for me to pumping this way. So you pump it this way. This is the starting point, 15, 20 times. And up to 50 times, it's a good idea to do that. So by pushing that down the duct, you're going to open up the drainage for what's above that, right? And then you do in the back. I showed you exactly where it is. You can do in the back, and literally you can do it down and coming forward to the same ducts, and do it again about 20 times. Not very, very harsh. You do it from one side and the other side, right from underneath your skull. You do it to the front. Then for your ears, by the way, this is fantastic. This one I'm talking to you now is fantastic when you're clogged, when you have a sinusitis tube, you have some kind of, head, you have a viral infection, some kind of infection, you're all stuffy. This is fantastic to do. So you start here, you end up, you do the back, then you do the ears, right? So how do you do your ears? You put, if you can do that, there you go. You can put them on one side and the other side of the ear. And you literally do this coming down, all the way down. So do it about 3 times, 4 times, 15 times minimum, 20 times. You can do it up to 50 times. So usually all of them, you do them about 20 to 30 times. And if you're not bored, you do it 50 times. So again, drain it the same, going the same way. Then you start with right on the, from the back of your ears. You start again, I'm doing it usually with the 3 hands. And this is dry. You can do it with the cream as well. Exactly what I'm doing now, I do usually with a cream, either the flow cream or Cleaver's cream. So you do it down again. 1, 2, 3. Again, it's about 2 or 3 seconds in between. So I'm doing it a little bit faster now. To finish fast is about 1, 2, 3, 4. And about 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, it's going the same area. And then you can do this as well. This is regularly what I do almost every day. But one thing I did not do it. Before you even do that, you can start doing something with your submandibular ones. So this is very, very important because many times it's clogging here. Because of the clogging, you're not draining your teeth. You're, if you have any kind of problem with teeth, and even if you don't have it, you want to clean your, your mouth and your teeth all the time. So how do you do it there? Well, the direction of the flow is this one, right? So you literally put your hands, so that's how you do it usually, with your thumbs, you just go underneath. And sometimes when I started doing this about a year ago, I saw almost like gritty stuff there, almost like granular stuff. And you do it 1, 2, 3 times. I'm going to do it about 10, 15 times. I don't do it 50 times usually. And then after that, you do the ear stuff, what I showed you before. At the very end, you do all the stuff. You go back to where you started from, and you give a pumping as well, about 20 minutes. Oops. Okay, I think I'm done. Are you there?
Thank you, Sofia. Yes, we had a request for you to stop sharing your screen so we could see you better. So I just did that. Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. That was.
Oh, too bad. I should have done that when I was doing it with the cream or not. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good suggestion. But thank you for that wonderful information. Those were really great practical tips that we can all apply today too. So thank you for that. And we look forward to your workshop, which will tell everyone a little bit more about how they can register shortly. But we do have a question from somebody, from Sherry. I would be curious to know whether it makes a difference regarding which side you sleep on.
Yes, it does. The best thing would be to sleep on your back. Yes, it does, because it's you tend to clog your lymphatic system on the part where you sleep.
Great.
It makes a difference. Actually, this was discussed in some of the courses I took. So best thing would be, that 5. Don't forget the 5 degree angle and sleeping on your back. And even maybe you have even one of those postural, whatever they're called, pillows that are taking the shape of your neck. I have one of those, and I find it that my drainage of the lymphatic system is much better with that. It takes a little bit of time to, sleep well on that, but it's,
Thank you. Okay, another question. Are puffy eyelids in the morning a sign of poor lymphatic drainage?
Puffy eyelids?
Yes.
Could be, yes, usually it is. But I would look also if you have, I'm not sure the person has anything like Hashimoto's, anything like that. Hypothyroidism, that's very, very much we've seen hypothyroidism, but yes, has to do with the lymphatic drainage. In hypothyroidism, there's a big problem with lymphatic drainage, actually. I know because I went through that for a few years until I knew what to do with it. And I know that I was always waking up with puffiness. Another thing could be, actually depends if it is like weepy eyes, you have red and so on, weepy eyes, so there's some other symptoms, could be allergies as well. You could be allergic to your bed, actually. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you. Any more questions for Sofia? Pop them into the Q&A. In the meantime, Sofia, your workshop is happening on Saturday, June the 25th from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. Eastern with a 1-hour break in between.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And the links to register will be in next week's IHN Weekly Digest. If you are a student or a graduate, you get that. And if you have subscribed to the newsletter, if you're a practitioner who has subscribed to the IHN this week, you will see the link to register for the workshop in that. So keep an eye open for that link.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to share that. So much information that I have to share and I want to share. And I had to chop a lot of my presentation for today. So like, oh my God, how much can you fit in 1 hour? But as I think it's, you know what, I did not take into consideration Extra Cellular Matrix for a long time until I had some good mentors. And I thought, oh my God, I have to share with you guys this. It's so important. That's my starting point. When I see a client, this is my starting point, because if you don't start here, then you will have to, after months and months of not having results, or having results and not having results again, going back to where they started with, you have to go back to the same place, Extra Cellular Matrix.
Yes, such great information. I'm happy I don't have a front-loading washing machine.
Yeah, I know. It's like, let me tell you, like a year ago, I discovered that and I was like livid. I was like, absolutely did not sleep for like 2 weeks thinking like, oh my God, I'm dying.
Yeah,
that's something that is like weird.
Thank you for opening up our eyes to that. Yeah, well, we're all looking forward to the workshop and learning more. So thank you for sharing all of that with us today. And
thanks, Jen.
Thank you all for attending.
I hope I'm going to see some of you or more people in at the workshop, because there's a lot of information to be shared with you. And literally, I can tell you for sure that your practice is gonna take another wind there, or it's gonna become in a way elevated by knowing all that information. And you don't have to study for another few years to get that information, read about 10 books and all that stuff to get to the same information. Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
Amazing. Thank you so much.